So in 1992, Marvel produced a 12-run series of WCW comics, which is interesting because that was the same year as my birth, which meant that my birth was heralded by the production of comics about World Championship Wrestling. And for anybody in the know, these comics are pretty infamous for being batshit wild and over the top. And I love them. I think they're amazing and beautiful things. The problem is, I'd like to look at each one of them, but they don't get really particularly out of control wild until issue two, and issue one is the most boring of the comics. I know this because I've tried to make this video 10 times and I always get stymied by issue one. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to really briefly summarize what happened in it and review it and maybe talk about some ideas that it perpetuates. And yes, I'm a cat now. I'm trying something out. So we open on Lex Luger holding the world title, which he often did. And Luger is in essentially full villain mode. The world of wrestling, morality is fluid, and heroes and villains often change. And Luger is a guy that was both a hero and a villain at many times. But we're in full on jerk villain mode as Luger has essentially challenged the entire world to come and take his belt in a battle royal. And a battle royal is a massive battle against a ton of opponents. So we meet the competitors: On Simmons, Terrence Taylor, El Gigante, the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott, Flying Brian, PN News, Big Van Vader, the Diamond Stud, and the Natural Dustin Rhodes. And of course, Johnny B. Bad, Barry Windham, Arn Anderson, and the Z Man, Tom Zink. Uh, but the real hero, the man we all love, is the lead singer of the Police, Sting. No, this is the wrestler Sting, obviously. Also, and of course, these are all, if you don't know, this is all real people, and it's Missy Hyatt, Jim Ross, and Paulie Dangerously. Now, Paulie Dangerously in real life was about 20 years old, in his early 20s when he was doing this, and Jim Ross was in, I think, his 30s. I might be wrong on that. And you're saying, well, why the heck is Paulie here? This is Paulie. Why does he look 50 or 80 or a million years old and somehow very skeezy? And the truth of it is, he just looks like that in real life. I'll probably put up a real picture of him at a certain point. Yeah, the battle is pretty simple. The kids love Sting, and that was true in real life. It's the kids always like Sting. And so with a battle royale, everybody fights, and you get thrown out if you're thrown out over the top rope. And the problem with this one is it's just a big fight scene, and we're gonna get this comic is gonna go into some very weird places. But whereas in real life, this would be thrilling to see because of the athleticism and ingenuity on display, it kind of dies a little bit in comic form. And I imagine for people who don't know who any of these guys are, it just feels like generic people. If you're curious, a lot of these guys would go on to fame, and some of these guys would go on to less fame. But El Gigante, I don't know why I was having trouble saying El Gigante, gets thrown out because he's trying too hard to protect the good guys, and so all the villains gang up on him right away. Also, some of the heroes. But the guy who seems to be dominating is Johnny B. Bad. Now, in real life, Mark Marrow, who was the actual Johnny B. Bad, was a Little Richer parody and was white, but that is neither here nor there at the moment. He was very popular, and the Z-Man was a glorified jobber. Every time I've read this, the way they draw Johnny B. Bad is there's something distinctly uncanny about him. Now, if you are noticing that Johnny B. Bad is not a Little Richard song, but Chuck Berry song, you are objectively correct because the original name they were going to go with was Tutti Frutti, and the former Golden Gloves boxer was a little heartbroken by that. But the thing about Johnny B. Bad is he was great and he got super over. He was, in fact, definitely one of the most popular. There's a reason why he's on here. Ring gets invaded by mysterious masked men. This is where the weirdness starts. How are there just mysterious masked men going? Now, contrary to popular myth and conception, wrestling is in fact very real. It's an actual sport, and anybody who says differently is a liar. But the fiction and this really, I don't know where I'm going. So, in this universe, this is real. This is not rigged. This is in fact a up and up competition, and they are actually competing for the belt. So all the weird stuff that happens is in the terms of a legitimate sports competition or kayfabe. I should just say kayfabe. I don't know. I expect non wrestling people to be watching this. And PN News, who's the who's drawn as bigger than Vader, but Vader was bigger, which is absolutely dominating. And so that is Rick Steiner, and this is Scott Steiner. They're part of the Steiner brothers, and they're the best tag team. And Rick gets injured, and Scott jumps over the top rope to save him. So that leaves just Arn and the Sting. Now, Sting is essentially the protagonist of this, which makes sense of these comics. And he's the one all the kids are waiting to see. And they do something very interesting. So it's up to it becomes Ron and Sting pretty much. Whereas Johnny B. Bad holds on to it and gets Johnny B. Bad holds on, gets back in, and more people get eliminated. And the great twist of the first comic is that it's not Sting who makes it, it's actually Johnny B. Bad. It's actually Ron Simmons. Of course, I like that there's a little morality play here. Sting does a complete move to Johnny B. Bad and kicks him from behind. You see, they even get into a complaint here. Oh, big man, get this. Well, his back is turned. Isn't that cheating? You tutti frutti good guys are no different from us bad guys. We just don't make no bones about cheating like you do. It's illegal. And Sting, Johnny B. Bad puts up a moral argument that in some ways Sting is behaving much like a heel right now. And Sting makes a point of it's a legal move, so shut up, which is not exactly the strong moral argument that you maybe need to win in rhetoric. But I'm curious, did he actually kick out the stud from behind? Let's see, where is it? I must have missed that. Oh, shit. He did. He was busy attacking Ron Simmons and Sting took him out. Uh oh, look at that. Sting did. Right there. Anyways, so a little bit of a morality play that Sting actually gets thrown out because maybe he used a little bit of a cheap and dirty tactic. And just very possibly Johnny B. Bad may have implanted something deep within the morality of Sting. Is he as good as he says? Does he actually represent the Stingers in the best way? Will this be a morality play that plays out through the rest of the issues of the comic? Probably not. I haven't read all of them yet. I've gone up to a couple, and it hasn't really been brought up, but something to think about. Anyways, it's Sting, it's Ron Simmons and Johnny B. Bad, and Simmons tosses Bad and does the Bane backbreak. And who was that hiding in the crowd? It was Lex Luger. Oh my god! And he smashes him over the head with the trophy, which always feels particularly cruel to me. Is that a tombstone? I'm never 100% great with the moves. And breaks Simmons' neck. Oh my god! Does Luger care? No, he doesn't. So the question is, what is this comic doing, and what is it doing well? Now, the assumption I would think is that most people reading this would not really care all that much about introducing people. The people reading this are already WCW fans, although I imagine in some way the reason they're doing this comic is to broaden the horizons of their fan base and introduce it to more people, which always creates an interesting thing because you have to serve two masters in this. And one, you have to assume that a good number of people reading this will be just fans, and a good number of people reading this will also may not be fans, and you're trying to broaden their horizons. So the question is, does it work? No, really. I imagine myself as a non-fan reading this, and these are random people who I have no idea about. and I don't know what's going on, and it is just unconnected fight scenes with sometimes terrifying art. But as somebody who does know what's going on, do I like it? See, this is what's always really hurt me about trying to make these videos, because I've been wanting to do these for a while. Is the first issue just sucks, man. Issue two gets good right away. And issue one is just like this boring little trudge where it's basically an exceptional wrestling match. I don't know. I'm much more excited to talk about issue two, but issue one is issue one. We got through it, and I was trying to see. The one thing I was trying to find is no, Steve Austin will be in this comic, but he's not here yet. So I hope you liked it, and we'll see how this cat thing does. This is an experiment to see if this works. Thank you. Bye. God, I'm trying to say something more inciting about all of this, but it's just we'll see. I usually okay, so this thing has a similar problem that I think corporate comics have. Not corporate comics. But this is meant to advertise comic book. This is meant to advertise something specifically, and it's like I want to judge it as a comic book, but it's like so the Street Fighter movie. If you've ever seen the Street Fighter movie, the original Street Fighter movie with John Claude Van Damme. One of the problems with the Street Fighter movie is it has to introduce so many characters all at once, and I know that's because of network problems. And so what happens is you essentially have 30 different characters all introduced at random points, and that's kind of a struggle. That's a struggle, and especially for a comic, it would be much better if it was just focused on a singular character going through their experiences. And this is kind of a mishmash of flesh at the moment. I do think it gets it pretty soon because in issue two, they just make Sting the protagonist. And from there, a lot of things click into place. But right now, this has all of the most common issue one problems I've ever seen. And it struggles. And occasionally the art can be a little creepy. Now that's the end. That's I think all I can really say about issue one of the WCW comic.